Almost 4 years ago, I came out with my defining format for most of my movie reviews, the Terrible series, and it immediately popped off. But right alongside it was a twin series, meant to be its opposite, to bring both positivity and negativity at a balance on the channel. I called it back then the Perfect series, and in true internet fashion, that option completely flopped. Also, I thought, looking back on these videos now, the handful of perfect videos I made have now amassed over 400k views. Not crazy, and it's taken 4 years, but they're very much like slow burners. Plus, I didn't really know what I was doing back then. Like, look, I did The Incredibles, WALL-E, and then Back to the Future. So I'm bringing it back and lowering expectations. This is no longer a series about reviewing absolute 10 out of 10s, but still just incredibly great works. Welcome everyone to the new amazing series, where we're starting off with the very first SpongeBob movie. Clearly, I still haven't learnt much. 3D does much better than 2D on my channel usually, but regardless, yes, we've spoken at length about the terrible SpongeBob movies, numbers 2, 3, Sandy, and presumably Plankton. But let's go back to our roots, back to the nostalgic, rose-tinted gem of childhood, and pick out just what makes a movie so amazing. It's the same chronological long format as The Terribles, so let's get into things. This is the amazing SpongeBob Movie 1. So, we start off dramatic. The music being so unlike the SpongeBob show, but also so inviting to a whole new adventure. It's anticipation, and surprisingly, a live action bit now. But none of that late stage Paramount stuff. This is actually quotable.
Hang it out the board now!
Remember when kid shows knew how to make kids excitable? Anyway, this is going to be the age-old storyline reality where pirates know of SpongeBob as a TV show, and it's a treasure of its own.
Tickets to the SpongeBob Movie!
Oh, take me back to that kind of plotline. Could you imagine what it'd be like nowadays? But anyway, what we have now is a shanty version of the SpongeBob intro, which is just clearly a love letter to the original show, to an extent we have literally not seen in decades now. You can just feel the love that this movie has to share, and somehow more meta than post-Marvel SpongeBob content. I love it. And it's not like they could never bring it back. But now we really begin, and it's from one parody to another. Pirates at the cinema, and now a crime scene parody. A sketch, essentially, that anyone can lean into, over-dramatizing something mundane.
A Krabby Patty with no cheese!
Get a hold of yourself, Eugene.
It's so simple, it almost seems stupid that this kind of vibe is lost in later years. You know it's a joke, you know it's roleplay, and you too could join in to enjoy the fun of it all. And it's not SpongeBob playing the role of SpongeBob, being his doofy, childish self. He's already in character, morphing like he does. Something I feel modern-day Paramount is too afraid to do in case the kids don't realize he's SpongeBob. You know what I mean? SpongeBob doesn't play anymore. You then got some great audio work to emphasize the drama. And all to save the day as SpongeBob fantasizes what it's like to be the manager of the Krusty Krab. And it was all a dream, of course, but it's set up for SpongeBob's goals to be declared the manager at the new Krusty Krab 2. It has to be him. I mean, look at his achievements.
Employee of the Month Awards.
That's 31 years and 3 months exactly, including this month. And yes, this movie is officially declared as the canonical ending to the full SpongeBob saga. And it makes sense. 31 years puts us very distinctively in the distant future. And a very particular number there, isn't it, huh? What kind of year would that even put us in? Oh, no, it sounds fully intentional. SpongeBob started in 1999, with 31 years added on top of that. That puts it directly at 2030 as SpongeBob's finale. Somehow, all this modern-day Paramount pushing lines up so far. But come 2031, that's when we can get real mad that SpongeBob is still being dragged through the trenches. God, I am 336 months old. But yes, a couple simple subversions and references later, as well as a surprising 3 for 3 for character nudity gags, and we're off.
Why, the goofy goober, yeah.
But somehow, this one doesn't feel like actually jingling keys in front of children like the new stuff does. It's thematic to the beats later on. A real masterclass of writing to get all this snuck in there early. But the setup's not done yet. We've got the Plankton storyline, and what better way to start off than with another quotable line?
Hello, I like money.
so direct, so unapologetic. And it works as a really simplistic exposition for all the characters, as there is a lot of extra lines added in here to kind of set up who these people are in case you've never watched SpongeBob before. It's kind of weird to see nowadays since everyone knows SpongeBob, but it's there. In the canon ending, introductory lines like,
"Oh, Karen, my computer wife."
and also a lot of just sound humor, which I don't recall happening anymore. But I still think works really well. It's like bait for children to mimic to keep them entertained, and add in a cheeky adult reference for the parents to be entertained as well, and you're golden.
Oh.
And with the villain's scheming established, we can loop it effortlessly into the plot by connecting him to SpongeBob now.
I'm ready. Promotion.
Not that it needs to go anywhere, it's just to show that nobody takes him seriously.
I'm ready. Promotion.
Stupid kid.
And now it's the moment we've all been waiting for.
That Krusty Krab too!
Manager. And you know where it's probably going, so what's the good gags along the way? Well, for a start, it's more sound bait humor.
Yeah! Ow! Shh.
And then it's cringe humor.
The most embarrassing thing you've ever seen?
But done with a lot of repetition to keep the longevity of it going, whilst also not overstaying its welcome. SpongeBob is given a description not from Krabs, but from everyone else trying to fill in the gap.
A ding-a-ling. Wingnut.
But after a bit of everyone insulting our protagonist, something nowadays relegated to the sidekick character for some reason, we then get to our thematic conflict.
And to be a manager, you have to be a man.
Bit of a stretch and more of a gag, but you get the idea. It's also a very perfect character development for someone like SpongeBob, and is only more obvious in the modern age as Paramount has no idea what to do with this guy. At this point, he's frozen in time as an eternal gag-slinging kid that is the butt of all the jokes. But back here, when Steven Hillenburg was at the reins, it's clear that he truly understood his characters and knew how to challenge them in a satisfying way. Having SpongeBob address his childishness with the goal of being more mature, but also likely doing so from his ignorant and youthful perspective, is just such great storytelling from a character perspective, and is colossally different to the SpongeBob we get now. And then pull back from the intellectual writing chops, you can always chuck in some classic wordplay with,
You understand, Edger? I mean, you understand?
plug in a subversion of a SpongeBob catchphrase,
I'm ready. Depression.
which is crazy to hear out of a kid's character's mouth and is also a great song from the SpongeBob movie video game. I'll start playing that now. And then one more new joke for you.
Did you see my butt?
And you've created a classic kids movie, high in quality as well, and we haven't even reached the parts this movie is notorious for. Now we have a new expansion to the SpongeBob lore, King Neptune. Is it a criticism that King Neptune already existed in the series by this point and the movie did a redesign of him? Maybe. It's apparently because there was a conflict between Paramount and Nickelodeon at the time that didn't lift until 2014. But hey, it could always be worse. They could have always, chosen to completely switch out the mythological source in the first place. Wouldn't it be awful if instead of a different King Neptune, we got instead, say, a King Poseidon? Ugh, that just sounds awful conceptually. Or worse, look at the concept art's idea. A live-action Neptune that looks so very modern Paramount, but no, we're in the good times here, okay? With a completely fair extension of the cast. Perhaps even the best version.
20 years in the dungeon it is.
Daddy!
Establishing a cruel king and a kind daughter. But also, this is our first celebrity appearance. It's not a live-action face talking mostly as they normally would. It's a voice acting role, and so is much more seamless into this animated world. Mindy is a young Scarlett Johansson, 19 years old at the time. Does it count as a celebrity cameo? I count it! And this whole expansion is also an interesting addition of a medieval tone to SpongeBob that I feel is kind of lost nowadays. Or it's vaguely there, but watered down. But look at these fish designs. Immediately more interesting to see. Anyway, we get our recurring gag of the Bold King,
I'm gonna be bald?
Tinning!
as well as more soundbait. Man, just add a perfect cut in these screams and this movie is basically doing modern internet humor. Plankton steals the crown for his evil plan, and with it, we can swing right back to SpongeBob again.
I got it!
Time for some payoffs at 1/5 of the way into the movie. It's looping back to that goofy goober song from before.
We're all goofy goobers, yeah.
And another new expansion to the lore. A mix of what I assume is Chuck E. Cheese for kids and a pub for adults, where you can get a McDonald's Happy Meal,
Supposed to get a toy with this? Thanks.
as well as getting drunk off of Sundays. I would say it's real daring to put an alcohol reference in a kids movie, but this is a pretty common thing, especially in the early 2000s era. Still fun to watch nonetheless, with the mess being an additional gag against the most straight man employee of all time. Add in another soundbite that is legitimately in my long-term mental library. Waiter! And you're set for a doofy fun time, until eventually being kicked out at 8 a.m. in the morning. Woof! This guy's work shift continued to 8 a.m. and he still has to clean after this? And I thought retail was bad these days. But with newfound bitterness, SpongeBob gets on out of there.
Mr. Krabs.
What follows next is admittedly an incredibly long scene, having multiple sets of people interacting all within or around the Krusty Krab, yet somehow it all just flies by. With the central conflict and quest being established, King Neptune has come to the Krusty Krab, and both titans of personality let their character, quirks flourish at either end.
Have this poll executed at once. $101
With cheese.
We then get to the actual issue as Krabs has been framed for the theft of King Neptune's crown and is soon to be put to death. Showcased not simply in text, but in all sorts of creative ways, from doofy handwritten notes to an impromptu voicemail that just spawns in from the side. And of course, some classic soundbite bait again.
My crown is in Shell City!
Both reiterating exposition and being great entertainment for impressionable kids. And it rolls just as simply on to SpongeBob entering the scene with the worst possible circumstances.
Who here has anything to say?
That he's a great big jerk!
So simple and easy of a misunderstanding that only adds more stakes to an already pretty confrontational scene. But any danger still isn't horrific or scary, as when the punishment actually begins, still we have both of these titans of personality cooling the waters a bit, with Krabs' screams being less of a direct, dramatic curdle like Plankton's, and more of yet another bait of a quote.
The underwear's on fire!
Thank goodness water can spawn back in your clothes. And as for Neptune, who's so far pretty large and intimidating, is also able to calm the jets by showing some vulnerability.
Between you and me, my hair is thinning a bit.
Now, not such a scary antagonist. This is just cartoon violence. And some deprecating humor that lasts for decades doesn't hurt either. This scene then transpires further as Mindy enters the sequence and puts SpongeBob specifically on the path to Shell City and returning Neptune's crown, with more great use of personality traits in such simple executions like...
Look at this little guy.
Honestly, with her whole bit being that she will one day be Queen of the Sea, I wouldn't be opposed to a new movie showing her as the Queen. She's a great character that hopefully modern writers could still use decently. Though I guess that also implies a canonical death of the king, so maybe not. Anyway, Patrick also appears with his stupid sidekick traits showing as well.
He can do it in 9! Jeez, birdies, you're hot!
Bit uncalled for, but it's another example of introducing us to the character back in the days when people didn't necessarily know them. Weird, but still masterful writing. And then finally, after the Royals go, we have the final number of setup.
Patrick, Squidward, and I.
Pass.
And so, with a classic screenshot gag to end us off with,
Your life is in our hands.
we're set to begin the adventure, and what a corker of a start this whole sequence has been. Lengthy, yet somehow it all just flows into each other flawlessly. SpongeBob and Patrick then jump into another new creation for this world,
The Paddy Wagon.
the vehicular figurehead for the movie, and just a great idea. It's got some gags, it's got some interesting designs, and the writers even noted to mention the contradiction of SpongeBob's driving issue,
You don't need a license to drive a sandwich.
which is just a great attention to detail. No notes. Well, actually, I have one note. There's one gag here that I think doesn't work, simply because it's an entirely neutral bit, and doesn't really appear in SpongeBob's work in futures. It's this. coming off more like a comic strip, it's interesting to see because I think it's a relic of a style that I guess the team felt didn't belong. Or I just never noticed them. That's plausible too. You've got things like the 2 hours later, which is kind of the comic strip aesthetic, but yeah, it's one of those things you just don't see that much. We then get a brief scene of Plankton at the Krusty Krab, followed by another quick stop at a gas station for the boys. Now we've done such a long sequence, it's time for quick flashes to keep retention up, and you know what these guys have to say.
Mustard or ketchup?
Once again, it's just an iconic scene, and it's barely the lines that make it, it's the laughter. From anyone.
Who's the kid now?
And being able to entertain without even the words is just masterful through and through. Back to Plankton and we see his restaurant is thriving off of a lie. And after some details that are obvious but also kind of dark if you think about it too hard,
I haven't felt this giddy since you agreed to be my wife.
I never agree.
we use Plankton to establish our real antagonist.
Vicious, cold-blooded predator!
The editing tells the story this time, as we loop back to a familiar sight at that gas station with a slightly different ending. Still not too scary though, the boys don't seem to be in pain, just inconvenienced. As for real scary, at least to me as a kid, I found this next scene pretty tense. It's the thug tug scene. SpongeBob and Patrick find their stolen sandwich and need to get the key inside this rough pub. A pretty decent side quest, fully covered in a single scene. Inside is all your classic manly tropes. And hey, thematic to the theme of being a man. So the boys in their weenie states go for the classic distraction technique.
I have to use the bathroom.
And hey, a great micro gag of the tumbled guy reversing back up again. And with that clearly not working too well, the boys meet in the bathroom. This place has a weird liminal space vibe to me, you know what I mean? Somehow this room feels different. It's weird. I feel like you could put together several bathroom real talk scenes in movies. It'd be really interesting to see. Anyway, while talking privately, they accidentally produce a bubble. And with a little bit of childish whimsy, the two are off on one. More sound bait for kids to latch onto, and yeah, it's kind of iconic too. I think what I also especially like about the animation of this scene is whilst we've had flourishes in detail and editing and of course writing, this time it's the lighting and the colors that really stand out. As the bubble literally englows the room in more pinkish tones, you can see it slowly building across at the start. It's just high quality animation, clearly bumped up by the theatrical budget.
Who blew this bubble? Shut up!
I think this was an attempt to cool the jets off of this next scary villain, but I didn't feel much better watching this as a kid. This is real scary. But as the whole pub is lined up and grilled, the worst trial is put up front.
No baby can resist singing along.
Still a goofy premise, but somehow pretty terrifying. And it's a chance for the animation to flourish some more with some animated, overly detailed shots of SpongeBob and Patrick practically melting from the pressure. Thankfully, it all drops.
Goofy, goofy, goober, goobers, yeah!
It's that kind of body diversity you don't really see in the series or movies much after this. We already had medieval guys from before, but these ruffians look pretty neat too. It's all just visual eye candy, back at a time where I guess they felt more experimental and wanted to expand in genuinely creative ways. Anyway, they're beaten senseless by every able-bodied patron in the bar. Nice of them to be pretty open in mentioning able-bodied. This is clearly, minus the incredibly violent beatings, a pretty inclusive place. And just as quickly, the bar is distracted and the boys drive away, car in tow. Now it's time for a brief bit with Squidward of all people. I guess he didn't get to fully pass. He's now our stand-in for the everyman, watching the population of this backwater town choose buckets as their apparel of choice. I guess somebody had to take on that role. Always good to have a straight man in a world as quirky as SpongeBob. Did the modern movies have that? But anyway, soon enough, Squidward comes to learn that Plankton is behind it.
Plankton giving with
Squidward is the only one to see through Plankton's plans and is happy to confront all about it right here and now.
but you can't fool me.
But of course, it's fuel to go into the next phase, which is full-on mind control.
Who can stop me now?
And another edit to showcase the answer. We're just deep into the antics at this point, and it's only up from here, as the boys have made it into man country. And you know, I don't think I noticed this as a kid, but this initial background,
We don't know how to weed them out.
it's just completely blurry. Is this an animation shortcut or just some odd creative choice? It's there anyway, as the boys are oblivious to the obvious visual danger, and that's kind of the whole scene. You can see the growing of bones, you know where it's going, plenty of time for every kid to notice.
SpongeBob! Make mine a chocolate!
Simple, you don't need to do much more. But the reveal, oh, this is golden. A newly inventive spin of those anglerfish. We've seen it in Finding Nemo, and we see it anew here. And then they run. Sounds like a great time to incorporate a... cut. Onto Dennis.
These will be mine.
Yeah, he's fine. Just more establishing that he's the real big bad of the movie, and a little Titanic reference chucked in there as well. For good measure. So how do the boys get out of the monster chase? Easy! You know how there's those cosmic vaporwave edits of like The Simpsons? I feel like I get a little bit of that same sense from this shot, of the sheer galactic scale of this eel monster shot. Does this count as another liminal space? Why am I finding liminal spaces in this movie? It's also the birthplace of this screen grabber Patrick. Almost doesn't fit in the frame anymore, but after seeing the extents of the ominous, monstrous trench, SpongeBob
SpongeBob? Oh, hey, where are you going?
is calling it quits. And now that we're just halfway through the movie, it's time for a pick-me-up to keep the motivation going. It's Mindy. Hey there, thank you for making it halfway through this new amazing series. If you're interested in more, this is the plug to subscribe. I'm also going to be sending out the full script and audio of this video over on our Patreon if you'd be interested in seeing how we put our stuff together. I have a very hard time trying to repeat a single lyric in this video, so check it out if you're interested in bonuses, and it's a chance to financially support me on the side. Up to you, no worries if not, and now I'll let you get back to the second half of the Only Not-TERRIBLE Spongebob Movie.
SpongeBob?
Is calling it quits. And now that we're just halfway through the movie, it's time for a pick-me-up to keep the motivation going. It's Mindy.
Did you see my underwear?
No, Patrick.
Did you want to?
But she comes in with a newfound perspective, and as a way to both split up the monotony of back-to-back side quest scenes and loop this journey back to the problems at home by showcasing the stakes on her clam mirror.
Planktopolis.
Although it's not so much about the plot really, it's the visually creative gags that really keep the movie going.
Ew.
Broken up slightly with the appearance of Dennis. Is this just for us to jump ahead a tad, or is it to show that Dennis is getting closer? Either way works. And we're back to them again, as Mindy changes their mind with fake mustaches. Yet another classic archetype of being a man from a kid's perspective.
Oh my gosh, Patrick, you have a mustache!
And just as quickly, the two bumbling idiots dive into the trench. I think there's really something to be said about having your two protagonists both being the dumb and dumber archetype. Not quite sure how they managed to lose it in, say, the third SpongeBob movie, but compared to the likes of the Sandy Cheeks movie, where SpongeBob is the only quirky one and faces endless pain humor as his contributions, and you can see we've come a far way from the vibes that this adventure brings.
Because we're invincible!
I never said that!
Following that, we now get an element of the SpongeBob movies that is always a surprise, and with varying rates of success, as the movie becomes more of a musical number. I guess we had it before with Goofy Goober, but here it's really front and center, and just a brilliantly replicable song. Is it rose-tinted glasses to say that this is one of the best SpongeBob songs? Maybe. Suddenly turning more horrendously intimidating characters into just as squishy as the rest of them.
They have become our friends!
All the while hopping around genuine perilous planes but barely acknowledging it. Their obliviousness again does make them invincible to a degree. And all this subverted danger only acts to bolster our real enemy, as he has the power to properly interrupt it.
Now that we're
Finally.
As we're coming close to the hour mark, finally now, we meet with Dennis, voiced by Alec Baldwin of all people. Man, I didn't realize how much of a grip this man had on my childhood films, considering he was also the conductor in Thomas the Tank Engine and the Magic Railroad, and he was the villainous boyfriend in The Cat in the Hat. Glad he finally got an amazing movie eventually. I hope he manages to keep that up. Welp.
These.
And just like that, we're back on vulnerable terms. No assistance from Mindy here, huh? No warning, no advice, no pop-up? Oops.
This is what a real mustache looks like.
Incredible. Somehow now turning the overly detailed close-ups into a shot of intimidation, and done not on the protagonists this time. And funnily enough, our protagonists instead do a Deadpool. They try to address the audience as their go-to gag for this section, and I'm not sure about the full history of SpongeBob and the cameraman, but I feel like it's somewhat of a rarity to be this meta in a sense. They turn to look at us on the reveals of the details.
Plankton?
He wanted me to step on you. Step on us?
Especially since Patrick is doing it too. Is he some kind of eldritch being that can tell he's on a big movie screen? Or is he just copying SpongeBob? Anyway, whatever the case, whip out your theories another day. After a brief piece of vulnerability from Dennis too about sharing too much information, he brings out his boot. Animated like that hand thing from the show. Very nice. I wonder what the qualifications are for the different aesthetic styles of each element in universe. And just as quickly we get... Ooh, it's time for live action to claw its way back in, as this is the supposed cyclops that guards Shell City that we've been hinted at a few times now. It's not a monstrous cyclops, it's a real human in a hard diving suit. Not that we see their face. An approach I wish we could have had in later movies. And you know, from a visual effects perspective, this really holds up. Sure, it's a little bit cartoony, but surely that's more so what you want. And with this scene being entirely entrenched in greens, it really works to blend the suit into the background better. The shot of him walking away is legitimately just a great blend of animation, and remember, this is 2D animation. It's even harder to mix these two than the CGI stuff. By staying reserved on what is and isn't shown, we have a much better showcase of VFX prowess. It's kind of like the argument of practical effects winning over visually, and I'll admit, I kind of forgot this integration in the movie, but it works so fantastically well. And with that, we've come to a real-life merch store.
Artificially colored rocks?
Now it's a real live-action integration. The entire scene is a live-action background this time, but also still reserved, as Sponge and Pat at least have the confines of a fishbowl to make it a little easier on the animators. And even just addressing this side of marine life is kind of like a Toy Story moment. From an environmentally aware marine biologist, this is a real departure from the vibes of modern SpongeBob, which makes plotlines around cloning and no need for water and all that. Yet here, it keeps things simple, like a throwaway Patrick line, like,
Some kind of wall of psychic energy.
those days are gone now for the cast, with a line as oblivious as that. But yes, it's a merch store selling dead animals of all kinds, horrifying in its own little way. But you know who's not horrifying? Somehow our biggest villain yet. Tactically choosing to stay in his suit since it looks better that way and animated... Wow, animating like a cartoon character. This is some real Power Rangers tokusatsu vibes. Yet somehow, when you can't see a single cell of skin, it works pretty nicely. He's not a real torturer either. This isn't a full-on fisherman. He's making googly-eyed creations instead. Listen to him do-do-do-do. That being said, here's another joke that I don't think flies that well. I didn't even get it as an adult, let alone as a child.
Alexander Clam Bell!
Honestly, I would have at least expected a niche marine biologist name, not a niche telephone one. Or maybe the education syllabus simply changed between Steven Hillenberg's and my time in school. And country. And so, in iconic fashion, the two boys are now placed to cook to death. It's the emotional swell of the movie, and it is really well done. Can you imagine almost crying at a SpongeBob movie now? There is nothing even resembling the depths this movie is going for right here, as they lament on their shortcomings, rescind their expectations as men, declare themselves as merely children.
Doomed from the start.
And only now discover what Shell City even is.
Shell City! Marine gifts and sundries.
And so, in the depths of despair, as everything seems lost and the whole venture itself seems unaccomplishable, the boys learn that they did make it. They did subvert expectations, and they did thrive to even reach this place. Their end goal in the first place.
We did make it.
And on that bittersweet realization, they can now somewhat die in peace. On their terms.
Goofy!
And I gotta say, this, strangely enough, is probably the real height of voice acting performances in this movie. So many lines are delivered so iconically, but it's here. It's Tom Kenny singing as SpongeBob, dried up and dying, and yet still with some emotionally curveballs in there that I think cannot be beat even in a great modern SpongeBob movie. He really took the assignment of making it emotional, because I don't know what it is about this delivery, but it's just absolutely perfect. And a death fake out in my SpongeBob movie? Unheard of. This can't be real, can it? Oh, and we're back to the Intro Pirates live action now. Something to lighten the air in the middle of this dire ending, both as a way to loop us back succinctly to the beginning, give us some doofy gags of look at these masculine men crying their eyes out, perhaps another notable poke at the whole theme of manhood here, and allow for a slightly less dramatic death scene Deus Ex Machina along the way. I wonder if test screenings didn't have the pirates interrupt here, and so the change was mandatory.
The tear of the goofy goobers!
Probably one of the best examples of writing yourself out of a corner. Or maybe that's just the nostalgia talking. But hey, I'm having a good time. And more than just that, it pushes the whole environment further as this revives not just our boys, but brings justice to every single aquatic creature we see in the room. Even the dead things weren't really dead, they were just immobile. Yeah, okay, we'll keep telling the children that one. We got the mariachi band, we got the weird combinations of recognizable faces on unrecognized bodies, and we got the next unabashed flex of animation. I cannot even imagine how long the animators spent on this one shot here, but I can tell you that nobody puts enough respect on a shot like this. Even now, as I show it to you on loop, it is not enough to fully soak in the amount of prowess taking place right here. But it's the perfect beatdown on our hardest rival yet, and with that, the two can get out of here, crown as well.
Let's get this crown back to Bikini Bottom!
But of course, it can't be all dandy from here, as they just as quickly lose that bag of wind Mindy gave them.
Well, that seems simple enough.
In comes, you know where this is going, an odd choice, a flaw, iconic, that's what it is. Yes, for some reason, in this 2005 SpongeBob movie, we get a cameo crossover with Baywatch from 1989. With a technical 15 to 16 year time gap, that would be like if the Sandy Cheeks movie decided to suddenly bring in Colin Morgan from Merlin. To be fair, maybe it would have elevated the movie. Looking into it further, it's not that bad. Hasselhoff was in over 200 episodes of Baywatch, so stuck to it right through to 2003. So he was relevant at the time. Though kid me didn't know that. This was my first exposure to David Hasselhoff. I'd only know his later works like in Hop, America's Got Talent, and a lot of other places where he just plays himself. Honestly, it seems like a dream casting choice. Yourself. Meanwhile, in Bikini Bottom, it's March 14th.
The day that crabs fries.
Just to add a little stakes on the timing of returning. Has it been 6 days? I haven't been counting the nights. Maybe they were unconscious for 3 days in Shell City, I don't know. And just to add more, we're now going to be cutting back and forth between Krabs and SpongeBob. All the more stakes.
Dennis!
Did you miss me?
And then this guy, coming in nonsensically as well, with bigger boots just steaming on the surface like that. Oh yeah, and also the fact that Hasselhoff himself has become a human speedboat. This kind of tongue-in-cheek humor, I don't think is so prevalent anymore in SpongeBob. It's kind of tragic. They'll put a face in a fish, but like, maybe this is the secret formula ingredients for a grand SpongeBob experience. I mean, they're kind of quirky nowadays with mech heads, but it's, you know, it's not this.
This is the best seat in the house.
Also, for some reason, I feel like this particular frame is ready and set to be another one of those iconic SpongeBob memes. Every frame is just so funny when you pause it for a moment. I'm surprised we haven't done it already. But yes, it's the finale climax time, of course. Everything's all coming to a head at the Krusty Krab 2. Somewhat coming to a head.
I'm stalling.
Yes.
Stalling?
And at the same time, SpongeBob's conducting this final fight scene as if it's a literal parody.
We'll never stop.
Like, this is legitimately a subversion of a trope. This movie throughout has had so much parody to it, and I think that is the most notable change from the new stuff. Modern SpongeBob takes itself too seriously, whereas classic SpongeBob actually goes more meta, ironically enough. It tries to elevate its comedy up a level back when it had the gall to do so, all the while bringing genuine creativity like a fight scene across an entire human body. I mean, not that there's too much you can do with it. The twist is you can jump from one leg to another. But even then, Dennis just teleports to the other one anyway. It's never that serious. It's great.
What is this?
$5 goober dollars.
And it makes for a less intimidating final villain. Even with the weather, it's blue skies and blue ocean. It's overall a pretty nice day. Just a fun time watching SpongeBob do his thing, and just as innocently being able to overcome his rival.
Fun at parties.
My eyes!
All to use up the very last piece of the set, David Hasselhoff's feet. It's a cornering, and time for a Deus Ex Machina to end the day. Honestly, it's fine. And with that out of the way, finally, we can say goodbye to that conflict and goodbye to Dennis. Time for the real final conflict.
You are to wait in the carriage.
Mindy's done all the stalling she can. It's the realist deal now. With a nice little flash of the comic strip effect SpongeBob sometimes has and sometimes abandons, it's a countdown sequence to heighten the heights. Back to familiar grounds as another referential piece to the show, I guess, with a little bit of live action integration. We now have our goodbyes to say to David Hasselhoff, the living Deus Ex Machina. But it can't just end off like that. We have to be weird about it, eccentric.
Who said anything about floating?
10 seconds to liftoff.
Maybe this as well is what makes SpongeBob of old so good. The ability to be quirky. From the strangely mechanical nature of Hasselhoff's body to switching back to the others as a countdown to Krabs' death.
For you!
No!
Yes!
Everyone getting bigger as they repeat themselves. It's simple enough. Kind of a sound bait of its own, but so effective to keep your attention and raising the stakes as we get closer and closer. It's just great directing through and through. Ready for our last second savior, and I'm gonna take the time to appreciate even the 2 frames like these ones. Look at how dynamic they draw the lighting on King Neptune as he shoots. Single frame shots, but it's the kind of attention to detail maybe we miss with the simplicities of 3D computer work sometimes. Again, it's just such high quality animation in this movie. The craft is so evident. Anyway, on to the rescue.
Ow.
And looping it back for a cartoon gag on live action too. You don't get to see that too much, so they took the opportunity while they could.
My beautiful crown!
It's happy days. Mindy can just waltz through the door since the lock was kind of forgotten, and though it's a green day outside now, it's the happy ending. Even adding Krabs celebrating in his frozen ways.
Sorry to rain on your parade.
Umbrella!
Oh, that's right, there's another conflict in this movie. Honestly, it's kind of baffling how many antagonists I guess there is. Yet somehow, I don't think this movie feels all that bloated. King Neptune, the car thief, the bubble guy, Dennis, the ice cream monster, the trench monsters, the cyclops, and now finally Plankton. But it makes sense to reel us back to Plankton. He is the evil core character. And it's been building in the background this whole time.
All hail Plankton!
Plankton cheated.
And it's all readying together to bring it back full circle to the core idea at the center of this film. It's not set up to be another fight scene that might get kind of dull and isn't exactly SpongeBob. It's time to go on about maturity, as Plankton doesn't like just using the word cheated.
What, you think this is a game of kickball on the playground?
This is real world drama now, not the infantized version that SpongeBob goes around parading with, and it loops us right back to that idea of...
And you're just a kid!
But SpongeBob has gone through all these events by now, and he's gotten some knowledge along the way. A monologue stored up to bring everything together. The mermaid stuff, the manager position, the stakes, the people, and while legitimate all on its own, it's also willing to subvert some of it again. It's more parody time, as they play around with Plankton getting interrupted or not being able to finish the sentence.
Okay, Nep.
And no amount of mermaid or some other third thing.
Because it's also not that important. It's funny to just be happening regardless of words. It's funny to see the reactions and the escalation from SpongeBob's delivery, and the callbacks are nice as well.
A goofball and a wingnut.
But it's all rising now. It's coming to a single head whether you're listening to the specific words SpongeBob has to say or not, as things get a little weird and eccentric once more before finally hitting off with, of course, yet another iconic bit.
What the scallop?
It's a musical ending! We started on a musical and we're ending on a musical. Does it make sense? Does it have to? It's fun through and through, and isn't that the essence of SpongeBob anyway? Somehow, the later films managed to keep the nonsense but forget to make it fun again, if you ask me. And I bet these days, Plankton would have been a lot more like instead. But this is just that kid-like wonder, now that SpongeBob has accepted himself as the kid he always was. And it opens up for all the iconic gags along the way. The random live-action shot. The Rock. Humala bebela, zimala bobela, humala bebela, zimile bum. And the fishnets. Thank you very much. And it's all just unadulterated fun. And in a little bit of tongue-in-cheek story progress from Plankton that also sounds like a line straight from a parody script.
Can't handle this level of rock.
And the day is fully saved. All the iconic characters return, Plankton goes to escape, and we circle back to the moment that started it all. Honestly, that's kinda gross. Maybe the closest thing to actually scary as a kid, but clearly the Plankton voice actor just enjoys that kind of screaming, so it's kind of fun in its own way. Plus, we've been set up to hate him this whole time anyway. And he lives, ready to go into jail anyway. And so, on that final epilogue scene, King Neptune has his crown and is sent to recover Mr. Krabs. Chuck in a mini gag in there.
What the?
Oops. Real boy ending.
And maybe add another one to add the logistics of that song number.
I'm up here.
I'm on it.
I mean, that's just incredible parody work there. Maybe one of my favorite jokes in this movie. And to really end it off, we circle right back to the start issue in the first place. You know how it's supposed to end. It's what we've been waiting for this whole time.
You now realize you...
I was just gonna tell you that your fly is down.
It's time for another damn parody! This movie knows all the tropes and is happy to dish it all out. It's the real ending.
Greatest day of my life!
Somehow, the meme started here, and we've still got the post-credits to cover. Can you believe it? There's a post-credit scene in a 2005 movie. This is so ahead of its time. Also, yes, in case you didn't know, this Ocean Man song came from an album that legitimately inspired creator Steven Hillenburg to make SpongeBob in the first place. This is where it all sourced from. And you can tell, which is really wholesome to hear. Anyway, those post-credits, eh? Of course, because we haven't come full circle enough, it's back to the pirates who really started it all.
You folks have to leave.
Okay.
Oh my god, even the cinema worker gets a mini character development as she grows some confidence. This movie truly has it all, simultaneously juggling so many elements, introducing us to these characters for the first time with multiple conflicts, an integration of live action and animation, a theatrical runtime, incredible comedy work, and oh so very parodious, and a love letter to the series through and through. For now, I'll be ending it off here. My name's been Daz. Do let us know any suggestions you have for any future amazing movies, and I shall see you in a little bit.